Drug overdose deaths soared to over 93,000 in 2020. That's a 30% increase over the previous year. That's tragic and alarming. But beyond the statistics are the stories of real people, people we love, our families, our friends, our neighbors, who share their stories of pain, grief, and loss and suffering through addiction, as well as the stories of those who work tirelessly to combat this devastating epidemic. I'm Mike Torville. Join me now for Healing Voices Project. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us at Healing Voices Project. We're glad to have you here. Today, we are going to dedicate this session, this episode, to Alex Gearing. Alex is the son of very good friends of mine. Alex passed away in January of 2021. And as tradition here, we're asking the listeners if they'd like to donate to a charity or organization in honor of the person that we're dedicating this episode to. And in honor of Alex Gearing, we're asking if you'd like to donate to the Alex R. Gearing History Scholarship Fund, care of Westfield Bank, 39 Morgan Road, West Springfield, Mass. 01089. That's the Alexander R. Gearing History Scholarship Fund. Thank you. And today, our special guest is Alex's mom,
Hi.
Allison Gearing.
Hi.
Thanks for taking time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. And I'm very sorry when we all heard the news of Alex last January. Certainly that was devastating to hear, and I know you've gone through quite a bit. So I know it takes a lot to come on to talk about it, but I know you have a mission behind your visit, don't you?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah. So thanks. Now, I guess the first thing is, why don't you talk about Alex and tell us about him?
I will. So I'll give a little brief overview about Alex as a kid. He was a wiry, hyper little kid. He was very bright and smart, and he liked people to know that. So
all of that is from his mom?
Yes, of course it is. Just me. And an example of that is in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And he, at that young age, was into history and books and just learning about the world. And he came home from school. It was probably 2 weeks before school was closing. And he's like, I'm so upset with the librarian. He said, I have one book left in the astronomy planet section, and I can't take it out because they're closed for inventory. And I said, Alex, they have to do that. He's like, Mom, I begged her. I go every day and ask her. The one book, he said, and I'll be finished with the entire series. And they wouldn't let him. So what does he do? The first day of first grade, when library opens, comes home and he says, I've got it. Here's the book. Read it, and he goes, I can check that one off my list. And he was all set after that.
He was not going to be denied.
No, that was the way Alex was.
Yeah.
And I would go to every teacher through elementary school. Was tough because he was a talker.
Yeah.
He does get that from his mother as well. And I
wouldn't have guessed.
I'd say to the teachers, hi, I'm Alex's mom. Here's my email address. And in about 2 weeks, you're going to want to reach out to me, and we're going to talk about maybe a plan to keep Alex, kind of in check. And they're like, oh, stop it. And then in 2 weeks, bang, I'd get that email. But elementary school progressed to middle school, and my husband and I would go to the conferences, and they'd say, Alex is a joy to have. We love him. He's a conversation starter. And we'd say, whoa, wait a minute. Are you talking about Alexander Ronald Gearing? And they'd say, yeah. Isn't he your child? Yes. Oh, yes, he is. And they'd say, he's fabulous to have in class. He's a conversation starter. Okay. And I said to my husband, wow, this is great. I don't have to get nervous anymore about parent-teacher conferences. So Alex went on through high school, hung out with a wonderful, wonderful support system of friends, just a really blended mix of people. I just found out recently through talking to one of his friends, wasn't friends with just his group, but with everybody.
He had an extended
group. And his friend Devin said, Allison, he wasn't just friends with our core group. He knew everybody, and everybody liked him. And he said, and he could say stuff that other people couldn't say and get away with it. He said in that Alex-esque way. And I'd say, oh, geez.
He had a little charm about him then.
Well, sometimes, because sometimes that charm, I'd be like, just, Alex, you need to get away from me right now. I said, you're kind of irritating me. And he'd chase me around the house and say, I'm not Mom until you give me a hug. And he'd chase me and finally say, bring it in. You know you want this. And I would do it, and then we'd laugh. And that's how.
He'd break you?
He'd give me the bear hug. You know, he was bigger than I was. Yeah. College time for applications came along. I had nothing to do with it. He wouldn't listen to the 2-hour rule, because that's what I thought was good. You can only go 2 hours away. And he said, oh, seriously, Mom? I'm not staying in this area. So he applied to schools in Virginia, Washington, D.C., and then New England states. And I had lost my dad in January of his senior year, so I was really kind of apathetic to his applying, which I feel bad about, but he took it in stride. He got accepted to all of the colleges.
But he was a self-starter. He initiated it.
He did it all.
He didn't really need your hand-holding, right?
He did FAFSA forms all on his own.
Right.
He did it all.
Yeah.
I did nothing, and I felt bad, but he did it all. Yeah. And then he did a flow chart, and he came to us one night, and he said, here are the schools. Here's the money they're offering. Here are their acceptance rates. Here are their employment rates post-graduation. I'm going to American University in Washington, D.C., and I just sat there with tears streaming down my face, and I said, you're leaving me? And he said, Mom, if you love me, you'll let me spread my wings.
Well.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I cried. I said to my husband, we got to let him do it.
But how can you argue with a guy who puts a flowchart together?
No, I couldn't. I really couldn't. I couldn't do that. So we take him up there. He's got 2 great roommates. We meet right away. We had planned the whole weekend. We brought our older son, Andrew. And the day before, we were supposed to stay another night and have brunch and then have our exit, and we'll see you, during Parents' Weekend or whatever. And he said, I'm good. You guys can go home right now. And I said, oh, no. Tomorrow we're having brunch. I've got one more night. He goes, no, Mom, you can go. And he was dismissing me. I was flabbergasted. He gave me a hug, shoot us out the door. I said to my husband, we cannot go in the elevator on the way down because I'm going to cry any minute. And my other son's going, oh my God, Mom. And I did. I howled like a wailing animal all the way down the stairs. And my husband said to me, I hope you brought something for the way home because I'm not going to listen to you. He goes, you need to close your eyes and go to sleep. And I said, but he didn't care. And he said, Allison, close your eyes. I don't want to hear from. So, yeah. So a week after that, for a week, I ran into my older son's bedroom and would cry and lay on his bed and say, I just want you guys back in your onesies. It was so easy. I want you under my control. I'm just so sad. And he said, oh my gosh, Mom, you can text him, you can FaceTime him, you can call him. He's like, oh my gosh. So finally, a week later, that's when I joined Snapchat, because I said to him, just show me your face every day. You know what he did in Alex style? He'd have other people say, hi, I'm one of Alex's new friends. And he says, hi, Mom. And I'd be like, that son of a gun. I'm not even getting his face.
You're getting other people's
I'm getting other people's faces, but that would make me laugh.
But you got to say, if he made friends that quickly, that easily, it had to make you feel good too, right?
Well, were they really his friends? Or was he just saying, hey, just do this for my mother. She's driving me nuts and I'm sick of her. So, after a week, I didn't run into my older son's bedroom. And he came running into my room one day. He said, Mom, are you okay? And I said, I'm good. Your brother's good. It's where he's supposed to be. I'm accepting it, and I'm good. And he did. He enjoyed D.C., and we enjoyed D.C. It was great to go visit him. We would do adventures. We'd always do fun things with him. The malls, the cathedral, the zoo. We'd go into Alexandria, Virginia. We'd do the waterfront. We had a lot of fun adventures, and I'm thankful for that now. Because I had a lot of pictures with him. And then I looked back and I'd say to Jimmy, we have to do pictures of me and Andrew too, because Andrew would come sometimes and sometimes not, because he was in college as well. And I'd say, I've got to get one-on-one with Andrew because I've got all these pictures.
You can't be absent from the...
Right.
Right.
So it was good. And I thought my son was doing a great job. He was very smart, getting good grades, because he was the first to call me up and complain that he got a 90, and that was an A- instead of the solid A he deserved. And he was going to go talk to the professor during office hours. And I said, Alex, get over it. Like, that's a really good grade. And please don't be that obnoxious student who bugs the professor. No, you don't understand the time and the effort I put in, blah, blah, blah. He stayed in D.C. the summer in between his junior and senior year of college. and he was doing an internship that he really liked. And he called me one day, and he said, I'm coming home for about a week. And I said, you can do that with your internship? He goes, I've told them things, Mom, and I need to tell you. He said, they're giving me the week. He goes, I need to talk to you. So he came home, drove himself home, and he came home and he said, there's something wrong with me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, since I was 16, I've had feelings of overwhelming sadness, he said. But when I was younger, those periods of time, the sadness would go away. He said, and then school was so busy and active with my friends. He said, and I did sports, and I was on student council. I was volunteering. I was working. It went away. I could preoccupy myself, or my friends could distract me. And he said, in senior year, I was so hopeful to be going to school in D.C., a fun city. He said, it was good. Freshman year was okay.
Yeah.
He said sophomore year, he lived in the frat house. He joined a fraternity. He was the treasurer. He said it was horrible. He never confessed that to me till after the fact because he didn't want me to say, I told you so. Because I said to him, you're a little young to be in the frat house. Why would you take on the role of treasurer?
He said it was terrible because he just didn't like the frat life.
There was things the frat brothers did that he didn't approve of.
Okay.
And I didn't really know the depth of that until after Alex died. And he told me, like he sent me pictures. Their house was a huge mansion in D.C. and they would transform it literally for these functions to earn money or just have their parties. And they would dress in formal attire, suits. The girls would come in dress outfits. And there was a cute picture of him with an attractive girl. And I said, ooh, who's this? Oh, we're just friends. And I said, okay, whatever. Well, that girl during one of the events was taken advantage of by a frat brother. And she thought she could confide in Alex. And she said to him, I need an apology. I was treated disrespectfully. I said no, and no one listened. They didn't listen. And I'm going to go to the dean, and your frat will be in a lot of trouble. And she said, I need some help from you. So Alex, they have their meetings every so often, said to the president and vice president, look, this is what's going down. How dare you? Why would you guys do that? Or you to the person. Yeah. And they said, they laughed it off. And Alex said, well, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to disengage from this fraternity. I'm going to quit so I can go with her to the dean.
Well, good for him. So he did want to disengage with that whole...
He did not believe what was happening. He felt really bad for this student. And after the fact, he did, but he was living there. He was in a contract, so he had to keep up the duties, and that's the part he hated. But after he died, this girl reached out to me on Messenger Facebook, and she said, the trajectory of my college career or path changed dramatically because of your child. And she said, he took his time with me. We would walk twice a week. I'd talk about my feelings.
He'd listen to her.
Yes, he did. And this was a theme that I discovered after he died as well from his friends from college and from home, that he was their cheerleader. He was their rallier. He had a lot of energy. And
but this is despite him feeling what you described earlier.
Exactly.
He still gave that to others.
He gave it to others, and nobody knew. I've asked many of his friends, did you know he was struggling? A couple friends, one friend wrote in this book that his friends made for me. They published a beautiful book, about 25 entries, pictures, and a couple friends wrote down, at one time, Alex mentioned he wasn't feeling himself and wasn't feeling good about himself and was feeling sad. Yeah. And he wrote, I didn't know how to respond to that, and now I wish I had. But I felt bad for him. I spoke to him after, and I said, hindsight's 20/20. You didn't know, and if he didn't further discuss it with you, how would you have known? Yeah. And then another student, our friend, said the same thing. I should have checked in more, and I said, you didn't know. And it's 20/20. Hindsight's 20/20. We know more now than we did.
It's normal sometimes to look back and think that.
And guys don't typically share their feelings like that. They don't. So when Alex came home, he said to me, Mom, I looked in the mirror at myself, he said, 2 days ago, and I said, who is this person looking back at me? And I said, well, why did you say that? He said, because I've been self-medicating with drugs. He said, a lot of pot. He said, I've been experimenting with other things. He said, and that's not me. He goes, and I always remember you told me I have a beautiful brain. He goes, and I want to keep that beautiful brain, and now I'm scared. He said that I'm not going to have that beautiful brain if I keep up what I'm doing, and I don't want to be that person. So I said, whoa. So I called the primary care physician right away. We made an appointment. They gave him antidepressants. He started taking those.
And that was the first time he was prescribed?
Yep.
Anything like that?
Anything ever. First time the doctor even knew about it. Nobody knew. His brother, nobody knew that he felt this way. Nobody knew he was self-medicating either. Nobody. I probably knew about the pot because we'd go in to visit him at school and I'd be like, whoa, oh my gosh. And he'd be like, I told the guys to, not to have any things around. I'm like, jeepers. But it was pot.
You sort of half expected anyway.
You can smell pot. Pot's a very, strong smell. Then we left the physician's office and we went to a place called AdCare in West Springfield. We had made an appointment for an intake, and we were misled by that. It really wasn't an intake, but there was a wonderful counselor there who spent an hour and a half with us. And Alex cried to her and told her his feelings. We got a plethora of information, handouts and papers, and just a lot of helpful material, how your brain needs 2 years to rewire back to being its typical brain after you've been using drugs, and just the damage and just your personality changes and things like that, self-isolation, all of the things. And Alex sat and cried, and I just was still thinking to myself, how much is going on that I don't know about?
All new to you.
All new. He did go to a couple counseling groups, but with there were groups. He did a couple in Northampton. One of his friends actually went with him to give him support, and his friend liked it. And his friend goes, I kind of like that. I'll go with you again sometime, Alex. So after that, I said, you are not going back to school. You need to take care of you. And he said, like hell, I'm not going back, Mom. My name's on the lease of this house too, and I'm graduating with my friends, and I'm a senior, and you can't tell me. I said, I'm not going to pay your tuition.
He had 1 semester left.
Yep. Yeah. Well, no, a year.
A year left. Okay.
Yep. And I said, I'm not going to pay your tuition. You're not going back. He goes, but Mom, that doesn't really matter. He said, I secured loans before on my own. I can do it again. I don't need your help. And I was like, so I said, we need to talk with Dad. And we sat down and we had a plan. We sent him back with drug tests. The deal was that he had to be on FaceTime with his father, showing him he was actually peeing in the cup himself, and show us the results. We did that for a long time. He was instructed to go back to the school counseling center and ask for counseling, because when we were there freshman year, they said they had all these great services. When he went in, he told them that he had been self-medicating, so they said, oh, well, we can't help you here, but here's some groups you can go to. And they sent him to a group in Maryland, and I got the phone call after he was there for 5 minutes. He said, Mom, the people that are there are all in their 50s and 60s. They're missing teeth. They don't look like they have homes to live in. He said, they don't care about me at school. That was his take on it. He said,
brushing me aside.
Yep, they're brushing me aside. They don't care. They're sending me here, Mom. They just don't care. And he was in tears. Here he is in D.C. and I'm in Massachusetts, 7.5 hours away. And I thought, oh my God, I can't even just say, I'll hop in the car. I'll be there in a couple hours. So I said, you need to go back to campus and go back to the health center and tell them that was not the place for me. I need a counselor here. So he, in Alex fashion, he gets heated up and passionate, said, I can't believe you people thought that little of me, and went off. And they said, if you keep up this ruckus, we're going to call security. And he said, fine. And he stormed out and he left, called me up once again crying. They won't help me, Mom. And I said, you know what? Do me a favor. Just go back to the house. Text me when you get there. I want to know you got there. And he did. And I said, I'm going to make some phone calls. So, of course, he was over 18. Parents aren't supposed to have a right. So then I got heated. And I said, my son is struggling. He's confessed to some things. We've been to the doctor. He's on antidepressants. If something's going to happen to my child when he's in school in D.C., it's on you people. And I will file a lawsuit and I will sue faster than you can say his entire name. 2 days later, he had a counselor. So I did that. And he connected with her and he loved her. And then COVID hit. So COVID might not have been a bad thing. He did Zooming with her, but all 6 of the guys were together in the house. And there were 6, and they all loved soccer, it seemed. So they'd go to campus. DC has a little bit, even though it was winter, it's still a little bit more mild.
Warmer than here.
Yep, they would have better days than us.
Yeah.
And he'd say, well, they're giving out box lunches. So we went to the school, got a free lunch, Mom, and then we played soccer, went back. It felt really good to be out in the fresh air. And he did that. We thought everything was fine, still doing the tests, but weaning off because he seemed okay.
He was coping and just,
Except for the fact that the antidepressants weren't working, so they upped his dosage. And then after 2 months, he called me up one night and he goes, I really want to kill myself. He goes, I'm having really bad thoughts, Mom. I think it's my medication. And I said, then let's start the weaning process off. I'm going to tell you how to do it. I have a lot of medical experience. I worked at Bay State for 34 years and just being around that medical environment. So he did. He called the doctor. The doctor said, yep, good choice. It's, that must mean it's not the right one for you, or there's something else going on, Alex. Maybe it's not just depression. So he came home in June, but I noticed a little erratic behavior around the end of the school, like in June. And I said, are you doing anything bad? And that was me asking him if he was doing drugs. And he said, I'm not. And why do you keep asking me? And I thought, oh, God, he's getting defensive. Jesus Christ. I said, your brother's coming to get you. Because he asked for Andrew. Yeah. And Andrew wanted to take a little road trip and, spend a couple days there. He came home. He seemed like the typical Alex. He was mad. He wanted his ideal job, which was really an overachieving aspect of his personality. I think he was applying for jobs that were not entry level for a new grad because he thought more of himself. Oh, I took all these extra weekend courses, Mom, and I'm certified in this and that. I deserve more. I said, honey, you need to apply for entry level for a new college grad, and then they'll see what you're made of, and then you'll climb the ladder. Oh, bullshit, he'd say. And I'm like, oh, brother. So he did have a job. His friend's parents owned a construction company. He was making state rate, so he was happy about that because he was doing his own online trading and making money. He was doing Bitcoin, he was doing stocks, and he would show us how much money.
He figured it out, didn't he?
He figured it out. So he worked, and again, I was living with my child and did not see, and it's not that I wasn't looking, because I'm the type of mother who once he left the house, I'd snoop. I'd go through drawers, I'd go through pockets, I'd look under the bed. I would do everything because I just still, that's me. I'm like a detective. I just not 100% trusting that way.
Well, you had a reason.
I had a reason.
Yeah.
And so I would do that. Wouldn't find anything. Fast forward to November of 2020. He went to visit his friends and he came back. It was a long weekend. He came back on a Monday night and he said, that was a wasted trip. I'm so mad I went. He goes, I'm a failure. All my friends are living in D.C. and have jobs, and I'm a failure. I'm doing construction. I can't get a job. And I said, I'm sorry. I know one of your friends down there. His dad's probably supplementing him, who happens to be a gastroenterologist. He was working for Grubhub. That's not a sensational job, Alex, in his field. And I said, and your other roommate, Dan, who is a spectacular kid. I love that kid. Had worked the same internship for quite a few years, and he slid right into his role. He didn't know how much Dan was making. I'm sure Dan wasn't saying, I'm making this. And
well, at 22 years old,
yes,
it's kind of tough to just draw a conclusion that this isn't working. You've got everything ahead, but you can't reason with somebody at that age. But I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no reasoning with Alex. Yeah. So he goes, I don't want to talk about it, Mom. I'm going to bed. But I said, but wait, Alex. You sent Snapchats of you guys. It was beautiful weather. It was right around the 10th of November. He came back the 9th, as a matter of fact. And I know the day because I came home on the 10th from work and found my son, blue, cold to the touch. He had vomited. I saw it. An agonal breathing, which is not a functional breathing. It's like last end-of-life breathing. And I had my phone because I was calling his name. And I didn't hear him. And he didn't have a car because it was in the auto body shop. And I was walking up the stairs, and that's when I heard those awful, disgusting sounds coming from his room. And I ran in there. I was like, oh, my God. And I did the thing to the chest, and I slapped his face. And I've been CPI certified, emergency certified since 1988. And I called 911, and they said, you need to perform chest compressions. And I said, I realize that. And I said, you have to help him. I said, he took something. It's evident. I see vomit. And I said, and I don't know how long he's been down. Our last conversation was probably noontime, and this was like 3:30. I couldn't get him off the bed, and she said, pull the bed sheets. He was dead weight. He was over 6 feet tall. I couldn't do it. So I ran down the stairs and I opened my front door and I screamed at the top of my lungs, somebody help me. It's Alex, somebody help me. And my neighbors happened to be walking, and they booked it to my house and helped me pull him off the bed, got him on the floor, positioned his head, and I started the chest compressions until the EMTs got there. And they just looked at me and they said, you need to leave the room. This isn't good. And I knew it wasn't good, because I thought, am I going to have them start his heart back up or get him breathing, and how much oxygen has been lost to his brain? Right. And it was COVID. So they rushed him to the hospital, not of my choice. The closest one to our home in Westfield, which was Noble, and they didn't really have great.
Well, at least for the sake of time, they got.
Yep, they did that. Yeah. I stood outside the hospital for 3 hours. My husband was in Connecticut. I had to call him and not act hysterical and say, you need to meet me at Noble. Our son's in the hospital. And my sister met me there. A police officer took me. My neighbors ended up coming. And 3 hours later, a doctor came out and said, your son's intubated, and we've sedated him, and he needs to go to Bay State. It's pretty severe. Yeah. So I'll never forget the kindness and compassion of one of they called him a first responder EMT, who said to me, when he was on his way in, he said, I'm going to let you see your boy because you've been waiting. He said, and I'm going to take such good care of him. And once I get to the hospital, I'm going to call you up and tell you where he's located, who his nurse is, and give you the number to call back after they situate him. Mm-hmm. And he did. He came out. By that time, my husband and my older son were there, and they could barely look at him. But having worked in that environment and being in the ICU so much during my career at Bay State, I went up to him, and I needed to touch a warm face, and he was warm again. And I whispered in his ear, I said, you need to come back, Alex. Come back to me. This isn't the end. And I kissed him, and off he went, and that EMT called me up, told me the nurse's name, told me he kept him warm and safe. It was a great transition. Mm-hmm. And he was in ICU, intubated and sedated because he had septic pneumonia. He damaged his heart, and they needed to keep his body calm. And the police were so helpful. I have to say the resources in the area were great. On the way to the hospital, he said, what do you think he took? I said, I have no idea. I said, there's a history. I didn't think he was still doing it. I said, he was in D.C. He could have gotten something from an old friend there, an old acquaintance. I said, he said, we can search the house with one of our dogs. And I said, please, do it. So they were in our house when we weren't home with the dogs during a search. And they said they found remnants, and they took it to the lab in Westfield. And they said that there was something in there that they'd never seen before, and that scared them. And they said if this is something new, it wasn't fentanyl.
It wasn't fentanyl?
Nope. And they said that's what's really scary. He said, because we used Narcan on your son, he came to, but not like you're supposed to with Narcan. With Narcan, people jump right back up and are like, hey.
Yeah, right.
It's instantaneous, that adrenaline. And they said, so we need to run tests, and we want to find out what this is. They took his phone. Tried to find out the trail.
Some clues of communication about what,
Exactly, and we found nothing. So 2 days, 3 days, he got extubated. The nurse was fantastic. She was with him. She happened to be on like this rotation that she was with him constantly until he got transferred to another floor. And he had to have a sitter. He had to have a psych sitter because he told the psychiatrist that he took the pills as a means to an end. I believed it at the time. Hindsight now, I think back, maybe he just took too many pills and he overdosed accidentally. Yeah. And he's saying that because he was too proud. He didn't want people to know his problem. Mm-hmm. So I took a leave of absence from work. He spent a week in the hospital. He asked for a second psychiatric evaluation because he told me that it wasn't fair that he was still under sedation and he doesn't remember the evaluation. And he wanted to speak to her again. So she granted him that. She called me afterwards and she said, I have to tell you, you've got a really bright boy. Mm-hmm. And she said, the fact that he requested another evaluation, right, because he was foggy about it, he was still under sedation medication.
He was at least aware enough to recognize that
he was. He was. I think he bullshitted her. and said that it was depression and he wanted to kill himself. And the nurse said, but your mom found you and she gave you a second chance at life. And he said, and this really hit me right in the gut, he said, well, then I should have walked into the woods behind our house where she couldn't have found me. So the fact that he said that, I was waxing and waning between, like, was it a suicide attempt? Because he did say he had those feelings. Could he be bipolar? And all these thoughts were rushing through my head. So discharge planning was horrific. I wanted him out of the state. I wanted him in a facility. I didn't want him home. It was super stressful, the thought of that. Nobody would take him out of state because of COVID. Then the psychiatrist told me about this great program. It's called the Turnaround Program. Follows him for a year. Nursing, health, counseling, psychiatry, everything for a year. They wean it down slowly. It's great. Perfect. Sounds great. Okay, I will. And he said, Mom, I really want to be home. I want your cooking. I want my bed. Take a leave of absence. That turnaround program only existed in Connecticut and New York. And it was like New York, Connecticut, like near New York. That didn't work. So I had to find help on my own through my insurance. So I did. It was basically him Zooming 3 hours a day, 3 days a week with a group. He had homework. And I still snooped.
You were still on leave of absence?
Oh, yes, I was. I was Zooming.
You were home.
I was home because school was kind of iffy then. We had remote learning. I was Zooming. That was right around, after that. Thanksgiving, my niece was home. She came every Friday so I could go into work and physically do evaluations at the school district I work at. He liked that. He'd go into the bathroom, I'd knock on the door. I'm like, hey, bud, what are you doing? He's like, Mom, what do people do in the bathroom? I'm like, all right. I didn't leave the door. My ear would be pressed against that door, or I'd take the time and search his room again. I just didn't believe. I'm like, there are ways if people are into drugs to find them. Never found anything. We would walk together. He would tell me things. On one walk, he thanked me for giving him life twice. He told me I was his most perfect, beautiful mother, and I was his best friend.
Which I think, given the what you were told about wishing he went in the woods, that had to at least help take that away. If you say, okay, he's back to being who he was, and that was just distorted thinking. You had to.
I didn't know what to think. I didn't, Mike, because I still, in the back of my head, wasn't 100% convinced. I checked on him every night like he was a baby. And finally one day he said to me, you've got to stop that, Mom, because you're waking me up at night and I have a hard time sleeping anyway. I said, sorry. I said, I'm just nervous. He goes, no, I get it. He goes, I get it, Mom. We got him a kitten as a support animal. We trained her to sleep with him, and that was like his favorite thing was our cat Ari. Ari slept with him. When he couldn't sleep, I would get texts with him in the picture with the cat in bed, and it would have been like at 1 o'clock in the morning when he just had a hard time sleeping, which is really indicative of drug use. So could he have been doing it all along and I never knew? Because these are things I've looked into and researched, and But what he was doing, you still wouldn't know, because, like you said, they didn't detect what it was. Right. So, yeah. And I would say to his brother, do you think Alex is doing drugs? He's like, Mom, I don't know. I'm working all day. I don't know. You're with him. And he'd get angry. And I'd say, okay. I saw the kids coming in. He never went anywhere. And if he did, I drove him and I picked him up. And it would be a friend's house where the parents were home. They'd watch TV. He'd give me a blow-by-blow. I don't know. He did have another psychiatric evaluation. It wasn't until January. That's how long of a wait we had to go. He came out furious that she wanted to give him antidepressants again. He said, Mom, it didn't work the first time. I talked to her for an hour. She doesn't know me. So he goes, I'm going to wait till the next appointment. Yeah. So she gets to know me, and I'm going to say, I didn't take them. I'm not so sure. I'm just depressed. Fast forward to the end of January. I'm still home with him, and he asked to go skiing for a weekend with family friends, kids he'd known since middle school. Their father was his ski coach in high school. He'd been there so many times. So his guy friend couldn't go because he was exposed to COVID, But the girls still said, come with us, Alex, because they were like his sisters, And I asked the counselor, and they said, he's doing great. If you saw his homework, he's got some great critical thinking skills, good problem solving. He knows, he's been doing mindfulness. I said to Jimmy, what do we do? He's like, Allison, we can't keep him in a bubble. And that's exactly what the counselor said. You can't keep him in a bubble. This is a good jumping off point for him to go. So we texted. Jimmy saw him before he left. He took his face in his hands. He said, buddy, you sure? He's like, Dad, I'm going to be with people I love at a place I'm familiar with and doing something I love. Yeah. I had prepared food, and I said, you tell them 1 meal's on the Gearings. Brought that up. We texted that night. I said, how'd it go? Little traffic. We're good. We're watching a movie. His friend Megan helped him make up the bed in the room he was staying in. She sat on the edge of the bed, and they talked for a while. He bought his ski pass. We saw that on his bank account. It was still linked up to my husband's. In the morning, Megan texted him because she peeked in and said he looked so peaceful. And I saw after the fact, of course, I saw text that she wrote, Alex, ? Are you up? There's coffee in the pot. There's a plate for you warming in the oven. And then again, Alex, are you up? We're coming in. And then they found him dead.
His friends.
Yep. I got very limited information. I felt so guilty. I was having a massage. I had a massage that day and my child was dead. And I didn't know it.
You didn't know it?
Nope. And I said to the massage therapist, I feel so good right now because I feel like I've been on hyper alert and I've been so vigilant watching him every second. I'm so tightly wound up. I need this massage. So I hadn't been back very long. There was a knock at the door. It was the parents. They wanted to tell us before the police came. And they said, Alex is gone. I said, did he leave? Where did he go? It didn't sink in. It sunk into Jimmy because he fell to his knees. And I said, Jimmy, you don't even know where he is. And she just kept shaking her head. And she said, he's gone, Allison. I said, you said he's gone. But why? Did they fight? She said, he's dead. So the coroner took him. We couldn't even see him because he got brought to wherever in the state of Vermont. There's one place.
This is hours from you.
Hours. Yep, 3 hours away.
Yeah.
So we had to wait for an autopsy. He had taken all of his old ADHD medication and had a heart attack. You really can't get high from ADHD medication like that, the quantity, and his heart wasn't back to functioning. So that was that. I learned so many things afterwards, just about Alex and his personality and what his friends didn't see. And I've learned so much about grieving. And so I have 3 siblings. My husband has 1 sibling. We have many nieces and nephews. And there are 3 of us in our house. My husband can't talk about it. I want to talk about Alex all the time.
And everybody grieves differently, as you've...
And I know that, and I'm trying to respect it. And then I get something sent to me like a memory, or his friends will reach out to me with like a funny picture, and nope, he can't even look at it or do it. We did counseling in the beginning, and it was a cry fest. And she told us there was no tools, and I knew pretty much that there had to be some kind of tools. So we stopped going. My older son does go every other week. I let it be a private time for him. I do not ask him what he talks about because he's talking privately about.
And if he wishes to share it,
he would tell me, right? So I started back by myself because the holidays and this fall, it's a palpable pain that I feel. It's like a upset stomach with like adrenaline surging through me all the time is the feeling I have, and I feel like there's an elephant on my chest. I do have to say, the Facebook community, seeing my post that my son had died, strangers, people that I've known from high school who've lost children have all reached out. I've connected with a lot of them, and talking with other families who've lost children helps a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it. My husband's not. And even I had a walk with my son's friend right after Thanksgiving, and he said all of his friends talk about Alex all the time, and they laugh and say, what would Alex do? What would he be doing? He said, but I never say to the guys, how are we feeling about not having Alex in our lives? He goes, I can't get that deep. He goes, and I don't want to stop the guys from talking about it, thinking I'm going to psychoanalyze them and their feelings. He said, so I just want them to keep talking about it. He goes, but the waves of missing Alex for me are intense. He goes, they come and go depending on what I'm thinking. And I said, I get that 100%. Right. I do. And it's hard. And it's hard within families. My sisters don't know what to do.
Often people don't know what to do or what to say. And I think the simplest, they care. They're
yes.
Trying to understand as much as they can and be there for you.
Yes.
At whatever capacity they can, even though they don't know what to do.
Right.
And at least you know.
Yes. And I say to them, I don't expect you to say, I know how you feel, because you don't. Just listen to me. Yeah. And they love me. Yeah. And they're loving. They're wonderful. Just Thanksgiving, I took away my father-in-law's traditional saying of the grace, and I said, Ron, I'm going to take this away from you this year. I said, because I need to address this group of people that are in my home today. And I thanked everybody for their love and support during the crappy year that we've had and our loss with Alex and how much it meant. And then I mistakenly read the empty chair prayer, and everyone just started crying. And I was like, oh, and dear Lord, thank you for this bountiful food to nourish our bodies. Amen. Because I was like, I didn't want to make it that sad, but I was sad, and I think I'm just, an open book, and I just say what I think a lot, so.
You've never shied away.
I've never shied, no.
But I know also, too, that elephant, you said that just presses against you, because also, too, the time, the holidays, the dates, you remember the November 10th, you remember November, this happened then, and those are all coming upon you in a rapid way.
Yeah.
And so you can't help that.
No, everything.
Yeah.
It is a reminder.
And I think, again, what could help is there's no magic other than having your family and friends around you.
Exactly. And I've discovered distraction's a good thing. And people say to me, you're so strong, Allison. You're so strong. They don't see me at home. They don't see me in my private times on the way to work crying, on the way home from work crying. When I'm with them, they're distracting me, and that's a good thing.
It's right at the moment, right?
It is, and I'm okay at that moment because I'm with them, and they're distracting me. And my friends have been amazing, like just standing dates once a week for all of us, whoever can make it. There was a big group of us from high school, my college friends who I haven't seen in a long time, sent a tree and had it planted, which was fabulous. I mean, my students' parents have done remarkable things for me that are so meaningful and wonderful. People in my husband's life that from work or just that he's done a side job for have reached out and done amazing things. And it's very heartwarming, and we appreciate it so much. We really do. We appreciate everything. And it's just a new adjustment to our new normal without our child. I don't know when I'll feel adjusted. I don't feel that way right now, but I'm hoping.
Yeah. And I think when you have your friends and they can provide the distraction, and you can even try to distract yourself, and you can say, I'm just going to watch this movie for an hour and a half, and you watch it ends, and you have no idea what the movie was about.
Yep.
It just an hour and a half of you couldn't remember anything about it because your brain is not there.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And I know, and going back to how everybody grieves differently, whether it's Andrew or Jimmy, other people in your family trying, and I know everybody has a different way, and it's hard to understand and say.
Right. Yeah. I know. And I say to my husband, because he just doesn't want to talk, I said, even if I cry, it's okay, because sometimes you need a good cry. And I said, just talk to me, Jim. You need to talk about it. I said, just talk to me. And if I cry, it's okay. You're not putting me, making me feel down. Kind of already feel that way. Yeah. It's just, I want to be there for you. And like one night he was outside, he had done leaves, and our neighbors are so nuts about their yards, my husband as well. And then one was having a fire, and I had probably spaced out, like you said, watching a movie, but the end struck me as very sad. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I said, oh my God, I can't be in this house alone. So I ran outside and I was calling his name, and I had to run to the property line, and I just yelled, Jimmy, I need you. And then boom, 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 I heard his footsteps. He goes, I am here. And I said, thank you. I'm sorry I'm pulling you away. He said, nope, it's all good. I'm done over there. Let's go in and watch something ridiculous on TV.
Well, you're each other's best support team.
Oh, he's my champion. He is my champion.
Yeah.
He is. I don't know what I would do without my husband.
And your extended family.
Oh,
I know a lot of your extended family, and they're all wonderful people. So.
Extended family, I can't say enough. Yeah. I cannot say enough. I love them dearly, and I'm so thankful and grateful for them.
And it's funny because I grew up with both your families,
your
husband's family and yours.
I know.
So I know that to be very true. And I know we've talked so much, but I know that we could go on and on and on, and there's so much that we could share to help parents that are going through the same thing, or people who are going through what you went through a year ago, and what do I do? How do I prevent it as well as you can? And I know you did everything you could do to prevent it.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of parents will say, "Oh my gosh, you've got to respect your child's privacy." I didn't respect his privacy, and I said to him, I don't trust you. He said, I understand, Mom. This was after the November 4th issue and after he came home that summer. And he was stuck to me like glue for 10 days before he went back to school. We watched shows, constant communication. I was like his lifeline, and I think he felt like he could tell me a little bit more, but you have to have open lines of communication and be that parent who says, nope, sorry, taking the lock off your door. It's my house. You're here as my guest right now. And I use that word many times. And I said, and you want to stay home, this is what you need to do. And if you want to go back to school, this is what you need to do. And I, at the time, thought I was doing what I could and setting things up. And I didn't realize maybe how bad things were because he was keeping a lot in.
But you're, like any of us, unable to control everything.
No, right.
Yeah.
Yep, it is right. And just after the fact, like this season, holiday season, the day before Thanksgiving was horrible. Thanksgiving Day was great. Was at my house, huge distraction, little kids, my loving family. The next day, I had a sleepover with one of my great nieces. That was great. Saturday, I had that walk with Alex's friend. It was Saturday night that I had that feeling. It was his 5-year reunion as well. And I was just thinking he should be there, and it hit me. That's when I had that, I can't breathe, and just the simplest thing. The other day, my sister-in-law said to me, hey, did you ever read that book I gave you? So I got back into reading this summer, but I'm in that phase
you
again.
Read and then pages go, and you don't even know.
And I said, I can't do it again. I need some time. But if you don't mind, I'd like to hang on to the book. And she said, oh, sure. But I can't focus right now. But my advice is seek whatever advice people. If other families are reaching out to you, embrace that because they've been through it. And you're not alone. You feel like you're alone, like you're the only one in the world this is happening to. And I know that not to be true. And there's so many people out there who care. Yeah. And that was the message that I've been receiving. People care. Strangers care who've gone through it. And that's...
And time alone is difficult. And time alone is just difficult, but it's unhealthy. And so... Yeah. And I think maybe sometimes people want to just get swallowed up, but that takes you to some tough places.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get stuck.
Yeah.
I'm told myself after Alex died, I made myself a promise for Jimmy and for Andrew that I would get out of bed every day because they didn't take as much time off that I did. I would get dressed, I would do the laundries, I'd cook meals, I would be out and about and not in my room watching Netflix all day. Right.
And some days you're entitled to do that.
Right. I do give myself that grace.
Give yourself a break sometimes.
Yep.
Right? And as we said earlier, you've set up a scholarship fund.
Yes. And the outpouring has been enormous. I was fortunate enough to give my first scholarship out this spring. It was over Zoom. And I got to write the criteria for this scholarship, which was really special.
You ought to have been the one.
Yes. And like I said, Alex was a finance major at AU, but he minored in history, and he was taking grad courses the fall before he died in history. And I always thought, my gosh, he just is the perfect person to tell people, oh, I know this, I know that. And that was his forte, I would believe. So I read this one girl's essay, and I felt like it was my child speaking to me. And I was like, she's the one. Yep. So it was great. She was very appreciative. I got a great thank you note, and it made me feel good.
It made you feel good. Yeah.
And I feel like it's carrying on Alex's legacy
absolutely.
and memory.
And you'll be doing it again.
Yes.
This is not a one and done thing.
No,
this is just
it's
keep
not.
On going.
We are keeping this going, and it's been great, and it makes me so happy. And I love to acknowledge each and every person who donates. And one of my sisters said, well, people do because they want to. And I said, that's fine, but I'm old school, and they're getting a thank you note.
That's great. And speaking of old school, I know you don't yet have a website.
No.
However, I'll say it again. It's the Alexander R. Gearing History Scholarship Fund. And to donate, you can send a donation to Westfield Bank, 39 Morgan Road, West Springfield, Mass. 01089. Now, we talked earlier, you may get a website, so in the meantime, at least this is a way to donate.
And I'd be grateful for anything.
Sure.
That'd be terrific.
That'd be
and I
wonderful.
appreciate you saying this.
Well, and next, when is the next scholarship?
So every spring.
Every spring. Okay.
Yep. So the next one will be in May, because that's or the very beginning of June is senior day when the scholarships are awarded. So.
Okay. Nice.
Yes.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
Well, this was kind of cathartic for me too. It was, because I got to talk about my favorite topic, one of my children.
Right.
And I just quickly, if Andrew's listening, he's my other favorite topic.
Who's your favorite husband?
Jimmy.
Well, thanks. Hey, it was wonderful.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, we'll be talking.
Yes.
Thanks, and thanks everybody. We'll see you soon.